Well, hi, welcome back with me in Muzagui channel. Okay guys, how are you today? I'm fine too. And this special moment, we are going to study again. We are going to study about the history. And history is one of the essential things is in this world. So you have to study about it. Okay guys, and right now before we study too too much, we have to know about some part of the history. The first we will explain to you about what is history. Okay, and this.
Okay, what is history? History is the study of the human past as it is described in written documents left behind by humans. The past, with all of its complicated choice and events, participants did and history told, is what the general public perceives to be the immutable bedrock on which historians and archaeologists stand.
Okay, we have known about the what is history, and next we will explain to you again about the types of the history. So in history there are some kinds, there are types of kinds, oh, types of history. So we will explain to you the types of history and the definition of that types. Okay.
Next, there are six types of history. There are political history, diplomatic history, cultural history, social history, economic history, and intellectual history. And now, I want to tell you each definition of history. The first, there is political history. This brand of history is one of the most popular ones. It is a blend of political scans and the study of history associated with it in a broader version. This brand of history is one of the most popular ones among the students. It is because this brand talks about the political achievements, failures, movements, leaders, and events that everyone should know.
The second is diplomatic history. From the name itself, anyone can guess that this specific branch of history is loaded with diplomatic issues. The branch deals with various diplomatic acts, even the relationship between diplomats from multiple countries are studied and discussed in the category. In addition, topics like peace treaties, war plans, international alliances, and studies on various diplomatic organizations are taught here. The third, cultural history. Culture plays a vital role in our life, no matter which part of the world we live in. We can hardly deny its very impact. However, the culture throughout the world varies, and this is what interests most of the students. The culture of a certain region and affected by many factors. The socio-political issue is just one of those. In addition, the geographical characteristics, people, and lifestyle. The food habits have to do a lot with cultural difference. This branch of history is just an entirely new dimension in history that shows the cultural changes that have occurred throughout the globe over the time period. The fourth, social history. Social science includes studying societies, beliefs, and practice that people from various social backgrounds have practiced through the years. People belonging to various religions as well as geographical locations that differ in their social custom. This has continued through which still exists. This particular branch of history is thus one of a kind which helps to know how mankind has changed its social norms and customs through age. The fifth, economic history. This branch of history, although it's not that much famous as the others, the impact of this branch, however, is not lesser than the others are. Economic history is mostly popular with the students studying economy. In this branch, the students have to learn about the connection between historical events and how those events have affected the world economy. And the last, there is intellectual history. The evolution of human is and actions are taught in this branch of history. This branch broadly includes the philosophies and concepts that humankind has believed and how those change throughout the years. And that's all of the the types of history and their definition. Alright, guys, we have to know about what is the history. What we have to know about what are the types of history, what are the kinds of history, and the definition for them. And now I will give you the example I will tell you the short story of one of the history in the world, the true history. Do you know? We can look at this picture. This picture is Masjidil Haram in Makkah, and I want to tell you about this picture. I want to tell you about the history of Masjidil Haram. You have to listen to me well, okay?
Our story begins with the city of Mecca. It is said that when Adam and Eve were first expelled from paradise, the two were separated, with Eve having landed near the city of Mecca and Adam having landed somewhere in the Far East. After many years of searching for one another, Adam finally managed to make his way down through the Arabian Peninsula to Mecca, and it was at the top of Mount Arafat, just outside the city of Mecca, where the two were finally reunited. Mecca is also significant because it is considered the first place on earth that God Almighty was worshipped alone. And so, it was at that very spot that Abraham and his son Ishmael built the first house of worship for God. In honor of this, God Almighty had built in the heavens a similar structure for the angels. And it is said that every day, 70,000 angels come to that building to perform their prayers and then leave, intending never to return again. When Abraham and Ishmael had finished building the sacred house, there was still one brick that had to be put in its place. And so, Abraham sent his son Ishmael off to find a unique stone that he could put there. But God Almighty destined that the final stone that was to be laid would not be from the material of this world, but instead a stone directly from the heart of paradise. The angel Gabriel then brought the stone down to Abraham, who proceeded to put it in its proper place. It is said that when the stone first came down, it was a pure white color. But due to the impurities of this world and the sinfulness of man, the stone slowly began to fade and eventually turned black. As time passed, the city began to develop, with the people of Mecca remaining upon pure monotheism, worshiping one God alone. This despite the fact that their neighbors in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Levant had been practicing paganism for centuries. But this was all to change when a merchant by the name of Amr ibn Luhay had decided to conduct his business outside of Mecca. Amr then proceeded to journey northwards until he reached the lands of Levant. There, Amr would witness for the first time things like modern architecture, advanced literature, and of course, the practice of paganism. Amr was so impressed by all that he had seen that before leaving, he asked if he could take one of the idols back home with him. The people agreed, and so Amr took the idol and placed it along with the other goods and merchandise in his caravan. He then set out southwards, back towards the city of Mecca. When Amr arrived back home, he immediately took the idol and placed it right in front of the sacred house. He then proceeded to tell the people that this was now going to be the God that they worship. Sadly, this concept faced little, if no resistance. And as time passed, the people began to worship more and more different idols, until it is said by the end of the 6th century, there were over 360 different idols surrounding the sacred house in Mecca. As the years passed and paganism became more prominent throughout the world, the people who still practiced monotheism knew that the coming of a new prophet was close at hand. And so, either through deductive reasoning or through interpretation of their holy text, many had concluded that the Arabian Peninsula was the most probable place God would send his new prophet. For at the time, the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire had extremely repressive governments and were hostile towards any type of rebellion, be it ideologically or politically. While the Arabian Peninsula, on the other hand, though also deeply mired in paganism, was a land ruled by tribal law and never had a real central government. As time went by, it appears that more and more people began to move down to the Arabian Peninsula to await the coming of the next prophet. And so, in the very land in which man first worshipped his Creator, and where Abraham built the first house of worship for God alone, it was there where God had destined his last and final messenger would emerge.
Guys, I want to ask you a question. What do you feel after you listen to my explaining? Do you want to search? Do you want to know any more about the history? Because, history in this world is very, very much in you. I think you will have the interest to know about it. I think so, because history is essential thing and you have to know about it. Okay, maybe that's all for you.